Your money might not arrive when you expect it in January, and if you're not prepared, you could face serious problems paying your bills, buying groceries, or covering essential expenses. January 2026 brings bank holidays, system updates, and payment schedule changes that will affect millions of people across the United Kingdom who rely on DWP benefits and state pensions. Some payments will come early, others might be delayed. And if you don't know exactly when your money is hitting your account, you could end up short when you need it most. Stay with me because I'm going to walk you through every single payment date for January 2026, explain exactly how the bank holidays affect your money, and give you practical strategies to manage your finances during this potentially tricky month. Welcome back to Pension Path UK, your trusted source for everything related to pensions, benefits, and financial support across the United Kingdom. I'm here to cut through the confusion and give you clear, accurate information that helps you stay on top of your money and your rights. If you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because we post regular updates about payment dates, benefit changes, pension news, and everything else that affects your financial security. Today's video is especially important because January is always a complicated month for benefit payments. And 2026 has some specific quirks you need to understand right now while you still have time to plan. Let's start with the most important thing you need to know about January 2026. New Year's Day falls on a Wednesday this year, which means we have a bank holiday right at the beginning of the month. When there's a bank holiday, banks are closed, and the DWP payment systems don't process transactions on those days. This affects not just payments scheduled for January 1st itself, but also creates a ripple effect that can impact payments throughout the first week of the month. Understanding how this works is crucial because the DWP doesn't always communicate these changes clearly, and many people only realize there's a problem when they check their bank account and the money isn't there. The general rule with DWP payments and bank holidays is straightforward in theory, but sometimes complicated in practice. If your payment date falls on a bank holiday or a weekend, you should receive your money on the last working day before the holiday. So if you're normally paid on Wednesday, January 1st, your payment should arrive on Tuesday, December 31st, 2025. However, there are exceptions and delays that can occur, especially during major holiday periods when processing systems are under strain. It's also important to understand that while the DWP might send your payment early, your bank might not process it immediately, particularly if they're dealing with high volumes of transactions at year end. Let's break down the specific payment dates for state pension in January 2026. If you receive the state pension, your payment day is always the same day of the week based on the last two digits of your national insurance number. People with national insurance numbers ending in 0 to 19 are paid on Mondays, 20 to 39 on Tuesdays, 40 to 59 on Wednesdays, 60 to 79 on Thursdays, and 80 to 99 on Fridays. For January 2026, here's how it works. If you're normally paid on Monday, your first January payment will actually arrive on Tuesday, December 31st, because Monday, January 6th is too late to count as replacing the New Year's Day payment. Your subsequent January payments will be Monday, January 13th, Monday, January 20th, and Monday, January 27th as normal. If you're paid on Tuesday, your January dates are Tuesday, January 7th, Tuesday, January 14th, Tuesday, January 21st, and Tuesday, January 28th. Wednesday payments fall on Wednesday, January 8th, Wednesday, January 15th, Wednesday, January 22nd, and Wednesday, January 29th. Thursday pensioners receive payments on Thursday, January 9th, Thursday, January 16th, Thursday, January 23rd, and Thursday, January 30th. And Friday payments are Friday, January 10th, Friday, January 17th, Friday, January 24th, and Friday, January 31st. Now, this is where it gets important. Because January 1st is a bank holiday, anyone whose regular payment would normally fall on that day or who would be affected by the holiday closure will receive their payment early on December 31st. Make absolutely sure you check your bank account on December 31st, not January 1st, if you're in this category. I've seen countless pensioners panic on January 1st, thinking their payment hasn't arrived when it actually came through the day before. Universal credit payments in January 2026 require special attention because universal credit works differently than other benefits. You're paid monthly on the same date each month, based on when you first applied or when your assessment period began. If your universal credit payment date falls on January 1st, you'll be paid on December 31st instead. However, here's the crucial point that trips people up. Universal credit payments can take a few days to show up in your account, even after they're processed by the DWP. So if you're expecting payment on December 31st, it might not actually appear in your account until January 2nd or even January 3rd, depending on your bank's processing times. This is especially common with online banks and some credit unions that don't process payments as quickly as major high street banks. If your universal credit payment date is any other day in January, you'll be paid on your regular date unless it falls on a weekend, in which case it comes on the Friday before. For example, if your payment date is Saturday, January 4th, you'll be paid on Friday, January 3rd. If it's Sunday, January 5th, you'll also be paid on Friday, January 3rd. Make sure you know your exact payment date, which you can check on your Universal Credit online account or through the UC app on your phone. Personal Independence Payment, or PIP, is typically paid every 4 weeks on the same day of the week. The January 2026 payment dates for PIP depend on your regular payment day. If you're paid on Mondays, your January payments are Monday, January 6th and Monday, January 27th. If you're paid on Tuesdays, it's Tuesday, January 7th and Tuesday, January 28th. Wednesday PIP payments fall on Wednesday, January 8th and Wednesday, January 29th. Thursday payments are Thursday, January 9th and Thursday, January 30th. And Friday PIP payments are Friday, January 10th and Friday, January 31st. Remember, if any of these dates were to fall on a bank holiday, they would be moved to the last working day before the holiday. But in January 2026, the only bank holiday is New Year's Day, which doesn't directly affect most PIP payments since they're spaced 4 weeks apart. Attendance allowance follows a similar 4 weekly pattern to PIP, so the payment dates are essentially the same as those I just outlined for PIP. If you receive attendance allowance, check which day of the week you're normally paid and follow that schedule through January. The New Year's bank holiday shouldn't significantly disrupt attendance allowance payments unless your payment was specifically scheduled for January 1st, in which case it would arrive on December 31st. Job seekers allowance and employment and support allowance are typically paid every 2 weeks on the same day. For January 2026, JSA and ESA payments will follow your regular fortnightly schedule, but you need to be aware of the New Year's Day adjustment. If your payment falls on Wednesday, January 1st, it will be paid on Tuesday, December 31st. All other payments throughout January should arrive on your normal day unless they fall on a weekend, in which case they move to the preceding Friday. Carers allowance is paid weekly, and January 2026 presents some complexity for weekly benefit recipients because of how the bank holiday falls. If you're paid carers allowance on Wednesdays, your first January payment will arrive on Tuesday, December 31st, instead of Wednesday, January 1st. Every other Wednesday in January will see your payment arrive as normal. Wednesday, January 8th, Wednesday, January 15th, Wednesday, January 22nd, and Wednesday, January 29th. If you receive carers allowance on a different day of the week, your payments continue as usual throughout January since the New Year's bank holiday only directly affects Wednesday payments. Child benefit is paid every 4 weeks, usually on a Monday or Tuesday. For January 2026, if your child benefit payment was scheduled for Monday, January 6th, it should arrive as planned since this is after the New Year's bank holiday. However, some child benefit recipients might have payments affected if they were scheduled for the very beginning of January. Check your child benefit payment schedule in your online account or in the letters you've received from HMRC. If there's any doubt about when your payment is arriving, contact HMRC's Child Benefit Helpline well in advance. Pension credit is paid alongside your state pension if you receive both, so it follows the same schedule as state pension payments based on your national insurance number. If you only receive pension credit without state pension, it's typically paid every 4 weeks, and the same rules about bank holidays apply. Any payment scheduled for January 1st will arrive on December 31st instead. Let's talk about what you should do right now to prepare for these January payment changes. First and most importantly, check your exact payment dates for every benefit you receive. Don't assume your payment will arrive on the usual day if it falls near the New Year's bank holiday. Log into your online accounts for Universal Credit, check your state pension payment schedule, and review any letters from the DWP that outline your payment dates. If you're not sure when your money's coming, contact the relevant benefit helpline now, not on January 2nd when you realize you don't have the money you expected. Second, plan your finances around the early payments. If you're receiving money on December 31st instead of January 1st, that 1 day difference might not seem like much, but it can affect your budgeting, especially if you have direct debits or standing orders set up for the beginning of the month. Make sure you have enough money in your account on January 1st to cover any automatic payments that might try to process, even if your benefit hasn't arrived yet. The last thing you want is bank charges for missed payments or bounced direct debits. Third, be aware of your bank's processing times. Different banks process payments at different speeds, and some are slower than others, particularly around bank holidays. If you bank with a major high street bank like Barclays, Lloyds, HSBC, or NatWest, payments usually process quickly. If you use an online bank, credit union, or smaller building society, there might be delays. If you know your bank is slow to process payments, factor this into your planning and perhaps keep a bit more money in reserve to cover any gaps. Fourth, if you're struggling financially or worried about managing through the holiday period, reach out for support now. There are many organizations that can help. Citizens Advice can provide guidance on budgeting and dealing with benefit issues. Local food banks can help if you're worried about being able to afford groceries. Some utility companies offer hardship funds or payment holidays if you're having trouble paying bills. Don't wait until you're in crisis to ask for help. The earlier you reach out, the more options are available to you. Fifth, set up payment notifications on your bank account if you haven't already. Most banks offer text message or email alerts when money comes into your account. This means you'll know immediately when your benefit payment has arrived, rather than having to constantly check your balance or worry about whether the money has come through. These notifications are usually free and can provide real peace of mind. Let's address some common problems that occur with January benefit payments and how to handle them. One frequent issue is that people forget about payments made in late December and then overspend, leaving them short later in January. If you receive a payment on December 31st that was meant for early January, remember that payment needs to last you until your next scheduled payment. Don't treat it as extra Christmas money. Budget carefully to make it stretch across the full payment period. Another common problem is confusion between when the DWP sends your payment and when your bank makes it available. The DWP might process your payment on December 31st, but depending on your bank, you might not be able to access that money until January 2nd. This is normal and doesn't mean there's a problem, but it can cause stress if you're not expecting it. If your money hasn't appeared by the end of the expected payment day, give it at least one more working day before you start to worry. If your payment genuinely doesn't arrive when it should, don't panic, but do take action promptly. First, check that there haven't been any changes to your benefit that you weren't aware of. Sometimes payments stop because of unreported changes in circumstances, missed appointments, or required reviews that weren't completed. Log into your online account for the relevant benefit and check for any messages or notifications. If there's nothing obvious, contact the benefit helpline for the specific payment you're missing. Be prepared for long wait times, especially in early January when phone lines are busy. For payment inquiries, here are the key helpline numbers you need. For state pension, call the pension service on 0800-731-0469. For universal credit, use your online journal to contact your case manager or call 0800-328-5644. For PIP, the number is 0800-121-4433. For tenants allowance, call 0800-731-0122. For job seekers allowance, call 0800-169-0190. For employment and support allowance, the number is 0800-169-0310. And for CARES allowance, call 0800-731-0297. Have your national insurance number ready when you call, and be prepared to verify your identity with personal details. It's worth noting that January 2026 doesn't have any other bank holidays after New Year's Day, which means the rest of the month should be relatively straightforward for benefit payments. However, you should still be aware of weekends. Any payment scheduled for Saturday or Sunday will arrive on the preceding Friday throughout the month. This is standard practice and applies year-round, not just in January. Looking ahead to the end of January and into February, be aware that your payment pattern resets and you'll go back to your normal schedule. If you received an early payment on December 31st to cover the New Year's bank holiday, your next payment will be on your regular date in January, which might feel like it comes around very quickly. Plan for this to avoid being caught short. For those receiving multiple benefits, managing all the different payment dates can be genuinely complex. I recommend creating a simple calendar or chart that lists every benefit you receive and when each payment is due in January. Cross off each payment as it arrives so you can track what you've received and what's still pending. This doesn't need to be fancy, just a piece of paper or a note on your phone listing your benefits and dates. Finally, let's talk about what to do if you encounter serious problems with your January payments. If money doesn't arrive and you're facing genuine hardship, you may be entitled to a short term benefit advance. This is an emergency payment that can help if your benefit is delayed through no fault of your own. You can apply through your Universal Credit online account if you receive UC, or by calling the relevant benefit helpline for other benefits. The advance is repaid through deductions from your future benefit payments, but it can provide crucial support if you're in immediate need. Thank you so much for watching Pension Path UK. I hope this comprehensive guide to January 2026 payment dates has given you the clarity and confidence you need to manage your money through what can be a tricky month. These payment schedules might seem complicated, but with the right information and a bit of planning, you can navigate them without stress. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and share it with friends or family members who might need this information. Subscribe to Pension Path UK and hit that notification bell so you never miss important updates about payment dates, benefit changes, or pension news. Drop a comment below if you have questions about your specific situation or if there are other topics you'd like me to cover. Your questions help me create content that truly serves your needs. Remember, knowledge is power when it comes to managing your benefits and your money. Stay informed, stay prepared, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care, and I wish you a smooth and stress-free January.